Welcome to the Flip and Castle podcast.
All right, strap in, everybody. Let's dive deep into this 2024 election. You guys sent in some wild videos and social media posts.
Yeah, it really captures the energy, doesn't it? All the anxiety surrounding this race.
It's palpable. It feels like the ground is shifting under our feet with every new headline.
Absolutely. The source material really shows how quickly public opinion can flip-flop, you know?
And how a single event can completely change the trajectory of a campaign.
Exactly.
So, okay, first up, Trump on Rogan.
Oh, wow.
I was surprised to see that. Did not see that coming.
Right.
And the clips from his Michigan rally, I mean, the crowd went absolutely bonkers when he mentioned that interview.
Like, they were thrilled he went on Rogan.
Ecstatic. Like, that was a major win in their eyes. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that appearance is significant for a few reasons. First of all, it shows Trump's willingness to kind of step outside that traditional media bubble.
Right.
You know, to connect directly with a different audience.
Yeah, and the fact that the crowd responded so positively suggests that it might be working. It might be.
That's right.
Like, he's reaching people that maybe he wouldn't have otherwise.
Absolutely. Plus, you know, that interview was 3 hours long.
It was a marathon.
It was.
Yeah.
That gave him so much time to really get his views across, potentially sway some undecided voters, too.
And it's interesting, you know, because it's like CNN's focus on some of Trump's more out there statements might have actually boosted his popularity.
Right.
You know, so like that whole don't look at the car crash thing, you can't help but look.
It is. It's the Streisand effect in action.
Classic Streisand effect.
You try to suppress something, it just gets more attention.
It backfires spectacularly.
Yeah.
And in this case, you know, by trying to discredit Trump's message, they might have actually ended up amplifying it.
Right, right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Let's talk about these polls because, wow, talk about a roller coaster.
I know.
I was shocked by how much they've shifted in just a few weeks.
It's dramatic, yeah.
Real Clear Politics is now giving Trump a 94% chance of winning. What is going on?
Well, I think this shift is really significant because it suggests a potential realignment of voter sentiment.
Interesting. So you think this is more than just a blip on the radar?
I think so, yeah. Several factors could be contributing to this. Economic anxiety is a big one.
Of course, always a factor.
Right. Then there's this general dissatisfaction, I think, with the current administration.
Right.
And maybe even a lack of excitement around the Democratic candidate.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even ABC News seems to be kind of bracing their audience for a potential Trump victory.
Oh, really?
They're saying the popular vote is way too close to call, and they're pointing out that Republicans now make up 40% of early voters. That's a pretty significant jump from 33% in 2020. Is this a real trend, do you think?
Well, the fact that even outlets traditionally considered left-leaning are acknowledging how close this race is, it's pretty telling. I mean, this election is genuinely unpredictable.
And that's what's making everyone so nervous.
Absolutely.
Now, on the other side of the coin, we have Kamala Harris struggling to, well, to put it lightly, keep things under control at a rally in Houston.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It's chaotic in these clips, just pure chaos. And the sources mention that she's losing ground with Catholic voters and having to rely on, well, let's just say, some big names to draw a crowd. Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Right, right.
Not exactly the image of a frontrunner, is it?
Well, the optics of these events, they definitely present a challenge for the Harris campaign.
I mean, is that a sign of, I don't know, maybe a lack of leadership?
I mean, a rally that gets out of hand like that, it can be perceived as a sign of weak leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reliance on celebrity endorsements, it can sometimes backfire.
How so?
It can make it seem like a candidate lacks that authentic grassroots support.
Interesting. So while Trump is, you know, going on Rogan and riling up crowds, Harris seems to be having a tougher time connecting.
Yeah, it's a different approach.
And then there's this whole political realignment that Roger Stone, in a post shared by Trump himself, is talking about. Former Democrats, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, are now backing Trump.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a huge shift. What do you make of that?
Well, this realignment, it's a major development. I mean, it suggests that those traditional party lines are starting to blur.
You think people are becoming less partisan?
I think so. It seems like voters are increasingly putting specific issues above party loyalty.
And that could have a massive impact on American politics in the long run.
Absolutely. Makes you wonder if we're witnessing the birth of a whole new political landscape.
And one of the most surprising things I saw in the sources is that Trump is actually winning the early vote in Miami, Florida.
Interesting.
And the video clip really highlights the influence of Latino voters who have fled socialist regimes.
Right.
And they're now throwing their support behind Trump,
Yeah.
which challenges a lot of assumptions about how certain demographics will vote.
It does. The shift in Latino voter preferences, especially in a key state like Florida, it's crucial in this election.
I mean, it really throws a wrench into those traditional predictions based on demographics, doesn't it?
It does. It really underscores the importance of understanding the nuances within communities, especially when those experiences directly inform their political views.
Like, you can't just assume that a whole group of people will vote a certain way. You have to understand their individual stories and motivations.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a powerful example of how, people's personal stories and their lived experiences can really shape their political beliefs.
Yeah, for those voters, the fear of socialism is very real.
Absolutely. It's not just an abstract concept to them.
It's rooted in their own past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they see Trump as someone who can protect them from that.
Interesting. And it seems to be resonating with a lot of people. But while Trump is tapping into those anxieties, Kamala Harris seems to be having a tougher time connecting on that emotional level.
Yeah.
The sources mentioned she's facing criticism for her handling of the border crisis.
Right.
And her focus on Trump's medical records, which some voters see as a distraction from the real issues.
Yeah, I mean, those criticisms point to a bigger challenge for the Harris campaign, which is effectively communicating their policy priorities.
And presenting a clear vision for the future.
Exactly. Voters want solutions.
Real world problems.
Yes. And if they don't feel like a candidate is addressing those concerns, it can really erode their confidence.
It's fascinating how different approaches to campaigning can lead to such drastically different results.
Right.
Trump seems to be thriving on that raw energy of his rallies.
And that direct communication with his base.
Exactly. While Harris is having a tougher time finding that spark. What do you think accounts for this difference?
Well, I think it all comes down to connecting with voters on an emotional level. It's not just about policy positions. It's about crafting a narrative. Yes. A story that speaks to people's hopes and fears and aspirations. And Trump, for all his controversy, he has a knack for tapping into that emotional core.
He knows how to push those buttons.
He does. He gives voice to certain anxieties and frustrations that a lot of voters feel.
And in a race as close as this one, those emotional connections can be decisive.
Absolutely. They can tip the scales.
Speaking of which, the sources mention a new Trump ad that focuses on border security and the dangers of drug trafficking.
Oh, I saw that.
It's a pretty hard-hitting message.
It is. It plays on those very real concerns about safety and security.
Exactly. It makes you feel like the threat is imminent.
Right. And that can be a powerful motivator for voters.
It's a reminder that even in a world saturated with information, those gut-level emotional appeals can be incredibly persuasive.
They can. They bypass our rational minds and go straight for the heart.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see how voters ultimately weigh these messages against other factors, like the economy, social issues, their overall vision for the country.
Right. It's a complex equation with a lot of variables at play.
And the outcome is still anyone's guess.
Yeah.
But one thing is for sure, this election is a testament to the power of narrative.
Absolutely.
And how it shapes our understanding of the world.
The stories we tell ourselves and the stories that are told to us have a profound impact on how we perceive reality.
That's so true, and it highlights the critical importance of critical thinking.
Yes, especially in an era where information and misinformation can spread like wildfire.
Exactly. We need to be able to discern between genuine insights and, carefully constructed narratives designed to manipulate us.
I couldn't agree more.
So we've got Trump riding this wave of momentum, connecting with voters on a visceral level, tapping into those anxieties about security in the future. And then we've got Harris struggling to find her footing, facing criticism for her approach, and not quite hitting that emotional chord with voters, and looming over it all is the sense of political realignment.
Yeah.
With those traditional party lines blurring and voters seemingly more focused on individual issues.
It's a fascinating and volatile landscape.
It really is, and it's with so much at stake, it's no wonder this election feels so intense.
But amidst all the chaos and uncertainty, there's one question that keeps coming back to me. Are we seeing a genuine reflection of public sentiment in these sources? Or are we being presented with a carefully curated narrative designed to shape our perceptions?
Ooh, that's a great question.
It is. It's the question we need to be asking ourselves as we consume this information.
And that leads us perfectly into the final part of our deep dive.
Where we'll unpack that question and more.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been going through all these clips and posts, trying to make sense of this election. And I think your question really hits the nail on the head. Are we getting the full story? Or is this just what, algorithms and media outlets want us to see.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
How do we even filter through all this noise and get to the truth?
It is a challenge, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we are just bombarded with information from every direction.
Every angle.
And it's easy to get stuck in those echo chambers, right?
Where you only hear what you already believe.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to actively seek out different perspectives.
Right, to challenge yourself.
Exactly, and be critical of everything you see and hear, no matter where it's coming from.
Easier said than done, though.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, confirmation bias is a real thing.
It is.
It's like we're wired to gravitate towards information that just reinforces what we already think.
That's right. We all do it.
Like it makes us feel good, you know?
It's comforting.
It's comfortable to stay in our little bubbles.
Exactly.
But that's dangerous, right?
It can be.
Because it means we're not getting the whole picture.
Right. And those algorithms that run our social media feeds, they know this.
Oh, they know it.
They exploit it. They feed us exactly what they think will keep us scrolling and clicking.
So we're trapped in these personalized information bubbles, each with its own version of reality.
Yeah, and as we saw with that Trump-Rogan thing, sometimes even trying to debunk or discredit something can actually backfire.
It just makes it spread more.
Exactly.
So how do we as informed citizens navigate this crazy landscape without being manipulated?
Well, first of all, you have to be aware of your own biases.
Recognize that you have them?
We all do. It's a natural human thing.
Right.
Then it's about actively seeking out information that challenges your views.
Don't just read the headlines that make you happy.
Right. Look for things that make you uncomfortable.
Make you think.
Exactly.
And for goodness sake, get off social media.
I mean, at least don't rely on it for all your news.
Right.
Look for in-depth reporting from reputable sources.
Read different publications, watch different news channels.
Exactly. Try to get a sense of the bigger picture.
Don't just get stuck in one narrative.
Right. And be open to having conversations with people who disagree with you.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It can be, but it's important.
You don't have to change their mind.
You don't even have to agree with them. But just listen and try to understand where they're coming from.
I guess the truth is usually somewhere in the middle.
It often is.
If you can find the middle.
Right. But that's what critical thinking is all about. It's not just being skeptical. It's about being open-minded and curious and willing to grapple with complexity.
So as we head into the final stretch of this election,
Yeah.
I think that's the key takeaway for our listeners.
What's that?
Be a critical consumer of information.
Don't take anything at face value.
Dig deeper. Ask questions, challenge yourself, and seek out different perspectives.
And remember, your vote is your voice.
Use it wisely.
Make it count.
Well said. All right, thanks for joining us on this crazy ride through the 2024 election.
Yeah, it's been a wild one.
It is stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
Your voice matters.
See you next time.